Hey guys, just played a game which was really wild. I think you guys are going to enjoy this one. So let's take a look. I was playing a 2270 and they played knight to c3, which is already kind of a weird move. I'm like, I'm just going to develop. I'm not going to overthink it. And then g4. And apparently this is a legitimate gambit. According to chess.com, it's the Tübingen Gambit. I have no idea how to pronounce that word, but some crazy gambit. And after you take e4 is kind of the idea because white gains a tempo on the knight. Now, apparently the best thing to do is play either d6 or d5 because both of these moves unleash the bishop, which defend the knight. Now, in the game, I just quickly kind of retreated it, but then I walked into e5. And notice how the queen is hitting here, the knight is controlling here, and so the only thing I can do now is go back to g8, which is kind of wasting a lot of time, and it's not really worth one pawn. I mean, look what happens now. White gets this like huge center, a lead in development, and all I get is one random pawn over here. So really not worth it. I think in hindsight, if I were to play this again, I would play the move d6 and just defend the knight. And I guess I don't know what the main line is here. Maybe, white attacks it. And now I can go back and notice there's no more e5 because I can simply take it. So this is, I think, a much better version for black. But, it's a blitz game anyway. So in the game, I played e6, d5. I figured I would just try to play it kind of solid and hopefully get to an end game where I'm up a pawn. h4, I said, let me just play h5. Just wanted to kind of lock up the board over here. And bishop g5, okay. And I said, you know what? Let me put my knight on f5 because white can't chase it away with g4, can't chase it away with e4 because that pawn's already gone. So it looked like a very nice square for my knight. So that's what I'm trying to do. And there we go. The knight gets to f5. So I'm feeling pretty good here. And sorry about that. Okay. Developing. I took a free pawn. Why not? It was over there. I went back. And, even though I haven't finished developing and castling, my position is still pretty solid, and it's hard for white to break through. So I'm feeling pretty good here. And after this move, I found a tactic, but I kind of messed up the tactic. So if you guys want to pause, here's a good moment. What do you think the best move for black is? All right, well, if you had a chance to look at that, the best move is knight takes e5, and it takes advantage of the tactic that I saw, but in a different way, in a better way. So the move that I played was knight takes d4. And if you do some math here, it's defended 2 times, but I only have it, my knight defended once. So why would I do that? Well, what I was thinking was after this, I was going to play c5. This is defended, so it chases the bishop back. And then I would follow up with this fork, and I'm going to get my piece back and also kind of free up some space. And, it seemed like it was going to be a good trade. And if this is what would have happened, I was correct. This would have been great. But I overlooked something here, okay? And the better move that Stockfish is showing me was knight takes e5. And it's the same concept that after this takes, there's this fork, but I do it in a different way that's kind of safer for me. And what do I mean by safer for me? Well, you're going to see what happened in the game. After knight takes d4, my opponent played bishop takes d4, and then when I went for c5, things started to get pretty crazy. So watch this. Bishop check, okay. Bishop to d7, I'm trying to finish developing and block the check. And then knight takes d5, which is not a good move, but in a blitz game with 2 minutes on the clock, this is crazy to try to figure out what's going on. I've got so many moves that I was thinking of playing here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe even castling went through my head. Not that it was a good move, but I did think about it. Like so many moves. And some of these lines are not like super, simple to calculate. So I messed it up. Apparently, according to the engine, the best move was c takes d4 or bishop takes b5 or knight takes d4. So taking one of these 2 bishops was the way to go. I decided to just take the knight because I didn't really see a good follow-up for white, but I missed the idea. And the idea is this guy lined up on my rook. Okay, so watch what happened. Captured, I took it, and e6. This is what I missed, this idea of pushing the pawn, unleashing the bishop, hitting the rook. And I don't have time to take this or I'm losing my queen, okay? So there's really no good way for me to do this. So I took here, and if white would have just taken this rook, I'm just losing. I mean, yes, I have a bunch of pawns, but I just lost a rook, and the pieces are even, right? So I would have been in trouble probably if that happened. Now, my opponent played rook here instead, which gave me the opportunity to sacrifice my queen for the rook and the bishop, which I was happy to do because I also saved my rook in the corner. Okay, so I took here, and then I took here. And now I have a lot of pieces for the queen. So if you do the math here, white has 4 pawns. I have 3, 4, 5, 7. So I have 3 pawns, a rook, and a bishop for the queen, which is a lot. That's a lot of pieces, right? So I think I was fine here, but it did get pretty crazy. So watch this. The rook comes over, attacks my pawn. I'm like, well, let's go for the fork because I didn't see a good way for white to, save the rook here. But I didn't realize how dangerous this was going to be for me because now there's the knight coming in, threatening checkmate, and there's also like all sorts of potential checks that I have to watch out for. So I played rook to d8. I wanted to just defend this, and I was totally willing to sacrifice my rook for the knight because once I get rid of the knight, the queen can't really do too much on its own against all 3 of my pieces and these pawns, right? So I would have been happy to do that. But here we go, and the queen starts putting me in check. And now it's kind of getting a bit crazy. King goes over, and I thought we might have a perpetual here, but white was ahead on the clock. You can see that, and decided to grab my knight. And here I said, you know what? The rook is sitting there. The pawn is a passed pawn. Let me just push it because if this guy gets, down to here, it's going to tie up the queen to guard it, right? And so that's kind of what I was trying to do. So here we go, pushing it, and the checks started happening again. And I said, well, I have to do something to get away from that queen. So I came up here. And again, same kind of a thing. Once that knight is gone, I didn't really feel worried about the queen. But the queen and the knight together are one of the most powerful combos in chess. So I didn't want to leave the knight around, even at the cost of a rook. I felt like it was well worth it, and Stockfish actually agrees with me there. So I took that, and here we go. So I got my pawn to where I wanted. Really, white's in trouble. Yes, they can go back there and stop it, but then their queen is just stuck. And if they ever move the queen, I just get it, right? So that would have been bad. I probably would have just defended it with the bishop, brought my rook up, over, and down like this, and it's a pretty easy win, something like that. So white decides to put me in check instead, and basically my plan is, okay, how do I get out of the checks, right? How do I get out of the checks so that I can actually push this? So bishop to f6, check, king here, check, king here, and watch this. Not only do I block, but it's also check to white's king, which is perfect. It buys me the time that I need. And after f4, I simply got the queen with check, forced the queen trade, and then it was smooth sailing from there. Actually, they just resigned, I think, right here after this. Yep. So wild game. Absolutely wild game. I mean, if you're playing a game like this and, you have 2 minutes on the clock and your opponent plays a move like knight takes d5, like, what are you going to do, So crazy game, and then having this end game with the queen bouncing around and, the pawn pushing. It's pretty cool. But anyway, got it done in the end. Hope you guys enjoyed that one, and I'll see you next time. As always, stay sharp, play smart.